As a reviewer of many French knives, I get a ton of questions. By far the most questions I receive are about Laguiole knives. There are 6 common misconceptions I would like to address. As for the historical facts, my knowledge mainly stems from Christian Le Maçon's excellent book about the history of the Laguiole knife. Christian spent many years of research in family and public archives. Unfortunately, as of now, there is no English translation. The book is only available in French and German. Without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. The name. A lot of people still think Laguiole is a company or brand. It's not. Laguiole is a small town in the Aubrac region of southern France where Pierre-Jean Calmel invented the now famous folding knife, presumably in the 1830s. Today, Laguiole has become a synonym for a certain type of folding knife, which doesn't necessarily have to be made in the town of Laguiole. Just on a side note, in 1993, the French businessman Gilbert Sageneur registered the name Laguiole as a trademark for several products, among them shoes, clothes, garden tools, and barbecue grills. He licensed the name to companies inside and outside of France. What followed was a decades-long legal dispute between the town of Laguiole and Sageneur. The dispute was settled in 2019 in favor of the town. Number 2. The Spanish origins. According to a stubborn legend, the Laguiole knife was inspired by a pocket knife from Catalonia, a region in northeastern Spain. Well, let me put it this way. Both the French Laguiole and the Spanish folding knife have a handle and a blade. But that's where the common features end. As Christian Le Maçon convincingly argued, everything else is different. They have different blade shapes, locking mechanisms, handle constructions, etc. In short, there is no reason to assume that the Laguiole knife was influenced by a Spanish predecessor. Number 3. The bee-fly confusion. Actually, this is an easy one. The confusion about whether the famous decoration of the spring is a bee or a fly is due to a linguistic misunderstanding. The French word la mouche means fly, but it's also a technical term in French cutlery where it refers to the broadened end of the backspring. The decoration itself can be anything and doesn't necessarily have to be a bee. As a matter of fact, the early Laguiole knives were farmers' tools and didn't have any decorations at all. The first decorations of the mouche started to appear in the late 19th century and were mostly floral motifs. The bee, in French l'abeille, was first used in the early 20th century, around 1908-1909, which, by the way, busts the myth of the Napoleonic origin of the bee. The bee was an invention by Jules Calmel, the grandson of Pierre-Jean Calmel. Number 4. The shepherd's cross. I also often hear that the shepherd's cross is an unmistakable sign of authenticity. Actually, it's not. In fact, it is a rather late invention. The first Laguiole knives with this kind of decoration started to appear after World War II. So forget the romantic legend of shepherds planting their Laguiole knives in bread before praying. Number 5. The place of manufacture. Some people insist that only Laguiole knives made in the town of Laguiole are authentic. For example, the Laguiole-based company Forge de Laguiole uses this as a strong marketing argument. This may sound reasonable at first, but it's historically untenable. First of all, Forge de Laguiole was founded in 1987 and has no ties to the Aubrac cutlery families of the 19th century. The company was artificially created in the sense that there was no direct link to a living tradition. The cutlery industry in Laguiole had been dead for decades when Forge de Laguiole was established. The company is the result of the honorable attempt to revive the tradition of knife making in Laguiole. But the reality is that most Laguiole knives have been made in Thiers for a very long time. To understand this, we need to take a look at the history of the Laguiole knife. By the middle of the 19th century, the Laguiole knife became so popular so quickly that a single cutlery family could not satisfy the demand. So other cutlery workshops in and around Laguiole joined the business. During the last third of the 19th century, the demand grew even further. Some of the knife companies won competitions and received medals for their craftsmanship. The Laguiole knife became more and more popular, especially with the upper-class citizens in Paris who demanded more and more luxurious versions of the knife. In order to meet the demand, the knife workshops in the Aubrac region outsourced parts of the production to Thiers, which has been a center of cutlery for centuries. The cutlery companies in Thiers realized the potential of this new type of knife and wanted their share of the profits. So they soon came up with their own Laguiole models. This was the starting point of the still ongoing rivalry between Laguiole and Thiers. However, the Thiers-based companies also prevented the Laguiole knife from falling into oblivion in the 1920s, when most knife workshops in the town of Laguiole had ceased to exist. What I want you to take away from this history lesson is that Laguiole knives have been and are still being made not only in Laguiole, but also in the villages around Laguiole and especially in the town of Thiers. Don't fall for the argument that only Laguiole knives that are made in Laguiole are original or authentic. Now I can hear you ask, what about those Laguiole knives that are made in Pakistan or China? The short answer is, they are as useful as a hole in the head. The long answer is also short. Don't buy this crap. Number 6. The quest for authenticity. Let me close with some remarks about the term authenticity. Today's manufacturers of Laguiole knives have come up with all kinds of paper certificates and guarantees of origin to document the authenticity of their products. This might give the not so well informed buyer of a Laguiole knife the warm fuzzy feeling of having bought something authentic and original. In a globalized world, the request for authenticity is all too understandable. But in my opinion, we should give up on the concept of authenticity altogether when it comes to Laguiole knives. Let me explain. Take a look at the blade steels and handle materials. Nowadays, Laguiole knives come with stainless steel blades, even with powder metallurgy steel blades and sophisticated Damascus blades. The handle materials range from exotic woods to mammoth molar tooth, not to mention carbon fiber and other modern materials. I really appreciate this variety. I want this variety. But all these materials were not available to the French cutlers almost 200 years ago. Should we therefore return to the original farmer's tool of the 1830s and 1840s? Just for authenticity's sake? No, of course not. Now consider the so-called authenticity criteria. The curved handle shape, the yataghan blade shape, the bee, the shepherd's cross. These features define different historical development stages of the Laguiole knife. but please do not consider them criteria by which to evaluate the authenticity of today's Laguiole knives. Instead, just take the Laguiole for what it is. It's an elegant French pocket knife with a long tradition. However, be aware that if you buy one, you buy a modern knife. Do not expect to buy a piece of history.